Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking out a super fun and exciting episode for you guys today because it is an early Christmas gift for Sonic the Hedgehog fans. We're opening up the present 13 days early here because Sonic Robo Blast 32X version 0.20 is now out as of today. And I did a video on the original release probably about a year or so ago saying it was absolutely mind-bendingly insane that they were able to get Sonic the Hedgehog in full 3D on the 32X. And that is because this is actually using the Doom engine from the 32X version of the game, Fusion specifically. This is not a Sonic the Hedgehog game, even if Sonic the Hedgehog is in it. This is actually a Doom game. And just be aware that this game does come with borders, but I actually reframed in post just because I thought it looked better as a full 16:9 presentation. Because you are getting widescreen on the actual 32X or emulation, you can just kind of set it up so that it actually looks like this in post. But I absolutely think that if Sega had released this in the 32X generation back in the day, they would have had an absolute massive hit on their hands. Because this is just straight up Sonic the Hedgehog in full 3D, even if it actually isn't 3D whatsoever. But we'll get into more of the technicalities in just a bit. But Sonic Robo Blast 32X is going to run on real hardware. It'll work on the MiSTer FPGA core, and it will work on emulation as well. But the list actually of the emulators that work on this will be in the link in the description below, so definitely take a look at that because you want to use the right one. But honestly, this is just mind-blowing to see, and I've already played this demo probably a year ago. The sensation of speed here, the gigantic open world, all of the architecture, just absolutely feel like a 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game that was cancelled and then found in some basement somewhere and then dumped for everyone to play. That is the level of technical mastery on display here as far as using the 32X hardware as well as the Doom engine to be able to bring you a Sonic the Hedgehog game. And now the entire second set of levels here is going to be included in version 0.20, and it's absolutely even better than all of the Green Hill stuff in my opinion. So much so that I'm not going to really be doing many cuts in this video. I'm just going to let this level run as I am playing it, just so you guys can get a sensation of just how massive it absolutely is, just how many fun different pathways there are, and just how many things there are to do in the game. Because this is not just a technical demo or a showcase of what can be done, this is definitely feeling like a retail game, just something that isn't quite finished yet, because we only have 6 total levels and a couple boss fights. But if they can keep up this level of polish in making this game and actually finish it, I think you're going to have what would amount to be one of the best 32X games ever made. It'll be something that didn't actually exist when the 32X was being sold at retail, which is kind of funny that it uses the Doom Fusion engine, which I would also consider the best 32X game ever made, and that also didn't technically come out at retail. I love seeing the 32X get a new lease on life because honestly the hardware had a lot more horsepower than developers and even Sega got out of it back in the day, and because it was not successful at retail, it really didn't have a chance to live long enough for people to push the hardware. So of course you have fan game makers and ROM hackers and modders coming in to really show exactly what the 32X is capable of. Now obviously it should be easy to say that this is not running at 60 frames per second, feels closer to maybe 20 frames per second, but the overall momentum and physics of Sonic here and how wide open the levels are really is a good design based upon the fact that you're not playing this at a full 60 frames a second. You have enough time to think about the jumps that you're going to take because everything is telegraphed and massively wide open for you. But that does not mean it's going to be an easy experience. There is still challenge here and there is still a lot of fun, and it's so much fun to see some of these levels come to life in 3D because obviously outside of Sonic Jam and the 3D area there, we had to wait all the way until the Dreamcast to get a proper Sonic the Hedgehog in 3D, even though everyone was definitely waiting for Sega to kind of show up Nintendo with Super Mario 64. But unfortunately we just had to wait a little longer for that to happen. But again, had this actually released at retail, I think basically every other 32X owner would have actually had a copy of this game. The install rate versus the hardware would have been massive because everyone wanted to check this thing out. And again, I just love that this is even possible in the first place, considering this is running in the Doom engine. So think about playing Doom, think about playing any other first-person shooter within that engine, and then think about making a full 3D platform with Sonic the Hedgehog out of the same technology. It's one of the most impressive and fun pivots I've ever seen come out of a Doom engine, and I absolutely think that it is the perfect technological choice to pair Sonic the Hedgehog along for the ride. But it's also got an amazing soundtrack, so we're going to go into our first soundtrack sample, 45 seconds, and I'll be right back with a lot more Sonic in 3D that never existed. Super fun soundtrack, super fun boss fight against Dr. Robotnik there, or Eggman, however you want to call him these days, because he can be called both things. And if you aren't aware, this is actually a port from Sonic Robo Blast 2, which is a PC game using the Doom engine as well. And I love that developers here just basically got the crazy idea of, hey, let's take something that runs on a PC where we have all the horsepower in the world, and let's port it to the Sega 32X. Let's bypass the Sega Saturn, which actually has way more power than the 32X, and just basically give ourselves a challenge on hard mode, trying to make Sonic the Hedgehog work within the Doom engine on hardware that basically almost nobody knows how to get anything out of. And that is just straight up why I love retro gaming sometimes. The concept of why did you do something? Because we could and we thought you would have fun. And definitely trust me, this one is fun. It is absolutely worth your time. So again, the link is in the description below. I tested it on a couple different sources and everything seemed to work perfectly fine. Just give it a second. You'll have to understand the physics of Sonic's momentum and how he continues to travel forward even when you release the D-pad for just a few moments. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes slowing down in a Sonic game feels like the wrong thing to do, but here in Sonic Robo Blast 32X, taking your time and understanding exactly where you're going is going to be a lot more beneficial. And if you do have a 6-button controller, you can turn the camera left and right as well to give yourself a little bit of an easier setup. But even that underwater section right there, and don't worry, the anxiety-inducing sound effects will be included if you wait too long. Having that kind of water ripple effect go across the screen on the 32X, there's been so many little bits of attention to detail put into this release. It really does feel like something that Sega themselves would have made Sonic Team back in the actual 90s. That is one of the highest compliments I can give to a project like this. If it feels like something that the original developers would have made and been proud of, you know you're doing a really good job. Just remember, it is still the 32X and it is still a 3D platformer, so sometimes you're going to get in areas where the jumps can be ever so slightly hard, but you can just go back, reset yourself, and try again, and you really don't lose anything here because, again, it isn't the hardest game in the world. Just pay attention to what you are doing. But I love just how diverse this game truly is. Moving back to Green Hill Zone, this kind of looks like the Sonic Xtreme vibe of the game we never got on Sega Saturn, and in my opinion at least, I think it looks even better than that. And even though of course we're not getting 60 frames per second, the performance here is impressive in its own right. You get enough frames to actually be able to play this thing, and it is just such a wild ride to think that it's even possible in the Doom engine. Because don't forget, Doom is not a 3D game, it is a pure 2D game that can basically lay up assets to create a pseudo 3D world. But there is nothing 3D about this, there's nothing 3D about Doom. You can just make the illusion of it actually occurring that way. And I would say Sonic Sprite here looks absolutely outstanding, and it animates well, as do all of the enemies in the game, and you can see you have his homing tech there, so you kind of have that same kind of Dreamcast vibe going on. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, did you play the original demo back when it released, and do you plan on playing this one? Because I can't stress enough, this is one of the coolest things I've seen in the back half of 2025. But one more soundtrack sample, because again, I love the music in this one, and I'll be right back with more Sonic. Figured I'd give you a peek of the overall options menu there as well, because I wanted the music to come through without any of the sound effects in the second sample. But trust me when I say Sonic Robo Blast 32X is absolutely one of the best experiences you can have for Sonic the Hedgehog in 2025, because we're basically getting really close to 2026 and Sega hasn't done much with the blue blur in a while. It's one of those things, it is mind-blowingly impressive just what people can actually get out of this antiquated hardware. If you asked me like a year and a half, 2 years ago, if a full 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game, which technically isn't 3D at all, would work on the 32X, I would say, I don't think so, and who would actually spend the time to try to make it happen? Well, now at the end of 2025, not only do we know it is possible, but a group of developers who I've listed in the description below, because there's a lot of them, have spent the time to make this, and now you have 6 full levels. And if there's one thing I want to see for next year, I want to see this game finished. I want a full-length 3D Sonic experience on the 32X, and I definitely want it to be Robo Blast 32X. Because this thing is just straight up from start to finish a special experience that shows that the 32X was capable of way more than we ever knew, and that in the hands of the right developers you can do things that are insane. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.